We're honored to host a distinguished group of industry leaders, innovative founders, and visionary investors here today, driving the evolution of AI and ML. And we hope today will be filled with inspiring discussions, valuable insights, and meaningful connections for each and every one of you here. So thank you for being here. Let's make this a day to remember. I want to introduce Pablo from 161 Ventures, and he will continue with introductions and provide some direction for the rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Let's give it up one more time for Quadrant. They've helped put this together, and they've been a great partner for us. Thank you. Awesome. So thank you so much for coming out. I see some amazing people in the room today. It's going to be awesome what comes out of this, the connections that happen, the deals that get done, the checks that get written. So we'd love to obviously keep in touch with everybody here and mingle throughout the day, but whatever happens after today, I would love to hear back and know what came out of it. So feel free to reach out, and we'll be sharing our contact information later. But yeah, welcome everybody. We're going to have some really great conversations. I'm Pablo Casalimas. I'm a co-founding partner, managing partner at 161 Ventures. We're a Florida-based venture capital firm, but we're investing all over the country. Quick throwback to our origin story. We actually, my co-founder Justice is here for 3 days, and we actually met at the University of Florida about 7 years ago, and started building the ecosystem there by hosting events. Back in those days, it was a couple of college kids in a backyard drinking beer and talking about startup ideas. And now we're doing events in Miami, New York, Seattle, with executives at leading companies in the world. So we're super excited to continue building ecosystems, and excited to be here in Seattle particularly, because what we see here, and the reason we're even in Seattle, right? Because what are we doing here? We're from Florida. So what we see here is Seattle is number 2 in the country from a technical talent standpoint, but it's not even top 5 from a venture funding standpoint. So there's a shortage of early stage capital, but there's great engineers, there's great product builders, there's great founders, and the reality is that the rankings are not great when you look at what the media is saying, right? The ranking just dropped down, and Seattle's now not even a top 20 startup ecosystem in the country. But I just learned the other day, I was hearing Julie Sandler speak from Pioneer Square Labs, and she said that Seattle is actually it's number 4 in the country for venture returns from deals that you invest in. So we're really excited to continue being active in this ecosystem. We've now made 3 investments in Seattle, and I think it's likely maybe we'll at least do a 4th by the end of the summer. So let's see how it goes. I got here a week ago. I'm going to be here till mid-August, and we're going to be doing a lot more stuff. So again, thank you so much for being here. If I can ever be a resource for anybody here, don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm going to go ahead and call up our panelists that I'm super excited to have with us today. Give it up for Pascal.
Thank you very much, Pablo and the team, 161 Ventures and Quadrant team. So thank you very much for all of you for coming here and helping us do this event. A lot of efforts went behind this event. Thanks all the panelists. I'd like to get into questions, but before that I want to make sure everybody excited to be here. All good?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. So the agenda is we have a set of questions. Actually, the panelists, maybe based on our experts came, we'll go with those questions first, and after that, we open for the floor. Like if you have any specific questions, you can come and ask the questions. Thank you very much. The other thing is, this is the first time I'm doing the moderating, so please bear with me and support me. And we are here to learn from you. Thank you very much. So we'll start with your introductions, maybe one by one. So each question, I want to get a perspective of each one of you. I have around 7 or 8 questions. So please share your perspective and what is the industry trends currently going on. That would be very, very helpful. Thanks. So we'll start with Gerson. Good intro.
I guess. This is one word? Okay. All right. Well, this is, when I saw the question at the beginning about, what are the current trends? It's like, well, this is pretty challenging. Just for the sake of, for the understanding of what do we talk about, because there's so much stuff. At your level, partnership also at not only software development level, but sharing strategies about how we're going to go about this as a group. There isn't enough infrastructure for any of us to go alone at this. So we will have to share the space. We will have to share our infrastructure capabilities. We will have to share probably not only knowledge, but even some of the insights that we're getting in the market and the trends that we're getting not only here, but in Europe, about privacy and responsibility. So the major trend is collaboration. You will see a lot of that, a lot of spaces feeling like, oh, these people are consolidating. It's not a consolidation. It's that we alone, we won't be able alone to advance what's happening in AI today, and we'll have to work together. All of us, big guys, small guys, will have to work together. But you start seeing that now, and you'll see it in the future. That is, our work is going to get really, really close in terms of infrastructure, in terms of capacity, compute. For most part. So that's probably the biggest thing that is happening in the last 3 months. And if you haven't checked, go check the news about what we announced yesterday. We announced a partnership with OpenAI, a new partnership with Google Cloud, and Larry talks about the possibility of a new partnership with AWS.
Okay, thanks, Kirsten. That's great news, and congratulations on both the partnerships. And actually, I jumped a little bit ahead, but sorry, 1 second. The topic for this, panel discussion is like basically how enterprises are using AI. So we need to get to that point. And before that, sorry, we didn't get into introduction. So is it okay to get your introduction first and briefly introduce yourself?
Yep.
And tell about what you do at our organization.
Yeah. So I'm a director of AI strategy at Oracle. Initially, it was only Oracle NetSuite. Now I'm a member of the global AI strategy board. At Oracle, I used to be an AI developer for many years. I started the AI group at NetSuite. I led product management and data science there before moving into this strategy role. And I started as a developer with IBM. So the whole progression from developer, product manager, but right now at Oracle, I lead strategy and partnerships.
That's good. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Mateus Pateco. I guess you're in for some accent today. I'm originally from Italy. I live here. I work for KPMG, large professional service organization, about 300,000 people globally. We're part of the Big Four. And sometime I need to remember to share that, because about 10 years ago, when we started recruiting data scientists in this very campus, people came to our booth and asked why the data scientist should work for a radio station. So, in case you don't know, that's who we are. So, but within KPMG, I'm responsible for what we call our Lighthouse team. And this is a heritage of when we were a COE and we served KPMG as a client in data analytics and AI. We were about 50 people. Today, we are about 23,000 people globally, and obviously we don't just serve KPMG as a client, we serve a large variety of clients. I guess the question was like, what do we see as a trend? And I like to distinguish, in terms of trend, the adoption of AI from innovation in AI. I think those two things are fairly different, right? So when we look at the adoption curve of AI, and we have a research team that's evaluating the adoption curve every 6 months, talking to the C-suite, we still very much see AI, and particularly Gen AI, in this context of augmentation, right? So Gen AI is being used as a generalist AI, right? So how can we use things like co-pilots, not just the Microsoft co-pilots, but how can we use AI to make our jobs easier, right? Whether it's content augmentation, whether it's job augmentation, there is a lot of efficiency that organizations are trying to get out of AI. But when we think about innovation and where the market is from a technology perspective, we start seeing a different trajectory, right? So we start moving from generalist AI to expert AI. And specifically, we move into this notion of agents and agentic workflow. And so when we think about the operating model that our clients are going to adopt, we see another major shift that's going to happen probably in 1 to 2 years, moving from the stage of augmentation, like I'm using AI to augment what I do today, to this notion of I consume agents that are working independently without my ecosystem. Obviously, I'm not here to tell you that the human in the loop is going away, but this notion of human in the loop is going to evolve as our clients, as organizations, are start to adopting the next wave of AI, which is agentic.
Great, thanks for the insights. Now next to the drivers. Can you introduce yourself briefly and then talk about
We're not sure about that.
Thanks for the next.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here. Dragos Marginanțoi, Chief Technologist at Boeing. I started with Boeing in 2001, and from the very beginning, so I had a PhD in machine learning, and from the very beginning, I had my hands dirty. So this is not in the last 5 years, but any 777 or 787, when it gets to the gate, there's a system called the AHM that basically tries to predict faults that may impact the schedule. So it's not safety related. So this is a product of Boeing, started in the late 90s, and it has learned models there, nothing sophisticated at the very beginning. Now it has advanced, it does anomaly detection and so on. So that was my very beginning. Right now I'm extremely interested in robust systems. Let's remember that Boeing produces certified systems, high-risk applications in which not only the system is certified, but even the production. So even if we change something in manufacturing, it will need some sort of certification, right? So, and high-risk applications require a different kind of thinking, require the thinking of robustness. So, that's why probably all our systems that we develop are not end-to-end learned models, but are architected systems that have a reasoning component, a state machine such as a planner or a scheduler. And I've been very interested in all these applications. In particular, I still keep my hands on one project, and you may have seen on our LinkedIn, we work on an autonomous experimental airplane that we have a lab up north, and the airplane is down south at Boeing Field. And this allowed me to understand also the modern autonomy and what's needed, what can be used for robust deployment right now, and what needs more research. I think, as Matteo mentioned, I named them, two directions right now. So one thing that we have the research, which is very healthy in AI. One thing that we're all building here is the engineering of AI, right? Mm-hmm. And I think we don't have that yet. Regardless of the application, you need that PhD factor. You need that, at least 10% of somebody who knows how to deploy a system, how to tune it, how to tune the parameters, and so on. And I'm very interested in automating that. So what was?
I think
So we'll get into questions on that. So that's my interest. And in terms of the applications, I mean, it ranges from manufacturing. If you've been to the Boeing tour up north, you've seen that we have a lot of robots in the factory and so on to our systems. One big thing, remember, so there's obviously, there are a lot of applications that give us, new functions, but a lot of places, AI systems can give us safer applications. So for example, just in manufacturing, by the way, the term augmented reality was coined by a former colleague of mine in Boeing because he was interested in projecting certain places where it needs to be work, where it was really high risk to access certain parts in the final assembly. So we have advanced in that, and if you've seen the factory, probably nobody puts their life or, there's no risk in that. We have automated systems and robots. There's robots that paint the airplanes and so on. So all this, it's interesting because many of these applications, we start to have kind of the common backbone with, state machines and so on that have here and there learned models, and we'll just need to learn how to engineer them.
Thank you, Dragos. And also, like, just for audience purpose, we are looking at your website, dragos.ai. So we found very cool articles. And
Right, I got that domain because it was available kind of 3 years ago or during COVID.
Yeah, please visit dragos.ai in case you know. If you're-
Dragos.com is a security company, which is on NASDAQ, so that's different. Anyway, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
So, coming to the next question, basically, as we're talking about, the topic is enterprise, how enterprises are using AI. So we'd like to know, like, in your enterprises, or you work with a lot of your clients, what are the different use cases or, you guys see, the AI is getting used in these enterprises with you, within your company, or with your clients?
All right. So I'm going to piggyback on what you were saying, because we at Oracle are very, very intentional when we talk about innovation and making sure that we are talking about the right thing. And just like you mentioned, we always talk about these two components. Innovation is just a sum of invention plus adoption. So we want to make sure that when we talk about in the context of creating something, we are making sure that the path for that to be adopted, it's clear. In order for us to say, yes, we are innovating, we're changing the stuff around. And with that, everything we try to build at Oracle, either for systems that people will use to run their businesses, or to run their operations, their manufacturing operations, or they're building something, we try to keep it on these 4 pillars. We want to make sure that our AI is geared towards either, if you're a private company, enabling you to get more customers, enabling you or create better products and services, hire the best talent that you can, or run your operations cleanly and efficiently and know where's your money going. If you're a private organization, when you look at Oracle AI, it's about one of those in any direction that you look at it. If you are a government organization or a non-profit, our AI investments are going towards enabling you to provide better services in terms of social services, health services for your country or your city, best security services, and so on. So it's very focused on what people need. And in the beginning of our ventures, we were very focused on how you run your network and how we enable you to make sure that you put products out and that you protect yourself and your customers. Now we're seeing a trend and requests from our customers to be more predictive in terms of running their operations, their financial operations. And I'm not talking about a statistical. I'm talking about enabling people to look into the future, to get not only the numbers and the story about the numbers, but the story that those numbers will enable towards the future. So it's not only about, I want to know where my sales is going, but I want to know how I'm going to get there, how that's going to impact my company, and what do I need to do to get beyond that point. So that's very important. The next point that we are getting from our customers is about usability. And this idea that AI could help us decouple the knowledge of a system or of an application from getting the expertise from being productive. So we are working on this idea across the board that you don't need to know the Oracle products in order to be able to use them for your advantage and as at your best. So ideas like guided experiences, some people call it co-pilot experiences, is something that we are hearing from our customers, and we are very, very interested on everything that is happening there, so that users no longer have to learn systems in order for them to do their job. And the last one that we are hearing a lot right now has to do with this idea of empowering people that are using our system and our hardware. We call it not human left behind initiative at Oracle. So we are very focused on augmentation, but upskilling as well, because people are asking us about putting that attention on building stuff that won't put people's jobs at risk. And that's at the core, at center of what we do at Oracle. So our AI, you'll see a lot of stuff that we're doing, cool stuff. We have stuff with robots, all that. But it's all about humans, all about protecting our users, their customers, and our ecosystem in general.
That's great, great lesson. So I think Matthew, we just touched on one point about the people losing their job with this new AI, things. I think while we were before, getting into this event, me and Matthew was talking about. So maybe while you're talking about different use cases in a company or an enterprise, also please share your thoughts about losing the people jobs, their jobs. And then he was talking about the growth factor. We're talking about the efficiency factor. Also, you have to consider about the growth factor. If you have a growth, the enterprises will automatically get into that growth thing, so that the more jobs will be there. So just maybe you can share more details on that. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah. Let me hit that one first, right? Because this has been top of mind for, organization, for C-suite, but also for society at large, right? And I want to be very direct in saying there is an element of pressure that AI is going to bring in terms of efficiency on the workforce. And there is no hiding from, right? AI is going to generate efficiency in the majority of the industry, if not all of them, in the great majority of the jobs, right? McKinsey had done actually a very nice study of that, and there were very few jobs that would not be impacted by AI, right? And so the one that says, it's not true, it's not happening, it will happen at a certain pace. But the reality is that, together with the push to efficiency, there is also an element of growth. Amazon is a great example, right? They've been driving automation in their delivery center for years. Their delivery center around 90+% automation, but they are one of the largest employers in the world. They're still hiring people every year because they're growing, right? So AI cannot just be an element of efficiency. AI needs to drive growth for the organization. It needs to be on both sides. And so where is the growth coming? I think growth is going to come from two channels. One, the operating model of many organizations is going to evolve with AI, so the product and services that we will deliver to the market will be of a different nature in the future, right? So that's one. And two, the demand is going to evolve as well, right? So we are focusing on the supply side now, about the efficiency we can drive on the supply side, but think about how the demand is going to evolve, right? Think about how consumer interface we price it today. You can choose whether to buy an item on the web or in a store today at a certain price. Tomorrow the decision will come from an AI agent, right? And so the demand is going to evolve with the use of AI, and that's going to force the supply to adjust as well, right? So there is an opportunity both on the supply side and demand side. To get to the second part about what are we doing, what we see clients do, we typically talk about the adoption curve of AI, or generative AI specifically, in three phases. Phase number one is typically use Gen AI out of the box, right? So what you can buy from an API or from technology vendors today. Wave number two is making that AI more contextual, accurate, and relevant for your business. And the way, or stage number three, is change your operating model to use AI to become more effective in the product and services you provide. We are, I would say, on the cusp between the first and the second stage in KPMG. We were probably, I believe, the first of the big four to make OpenAI available to all our professionals. That was about a year ago. Then we opened up a number of LLM, right? Whether it's Gemini and others, to our people. We train them around prompt engineering. We start capturing those prompts. We try to understand how they use it, primarily on content development. We have seen a lot of lift around also the technical work we do in the SDLC, whether you're a data engineer or software engineer, we using the AI very heavily, and we see about 30-40% lift. I consider all this to be kind of, stage one of that work. We are evolving to the stage two, so we actually training the more generalist AI with our corpus. And obviously we have a lot of data, whether it's our audit data, whether it's our tax data, our advisory data, so that we can actually develop those type of knowledge assistant agents that have the level of accuracy and insight that our professionals bring to the market today. So we are on that cusp of getting into the second stage. We are thinking about what the third stage would look like for us. So we have something in our strategy we call Pillar 4, which is like, how are we going to disrupt ourselves with the use of technology? I'll share a little bit that maybe in the next question.
Yeah, so definitely, so the way I want to phrase it is that we shouldn't be about replacing humans, but about replacing the robot in the human, or replacing the routine activities in the humans. In many activities, we have that, and we have that in many jobs which can be grueling, can be high risk, and we've done a lot of efforts in our company in using AI methods in supporting that. We will have, obviously, the humans in the loop, and I think one thing that in research we tend to ignore is actually that complex interface. So remember, products fail or succeed because of that interface. We've seen, for example, historically, how many of you have heard of the Apple Newton device?
Sure.
Anyone? Okay. It failed. It was an amazing handwriting recognition system. It was, 15 years before the iPhone, and it failed because it wasn't thought over the entire interface. The iPhone was at the right time with the right interface and so on. And I think in a more complex way, in any model that we develop, any system that we develop, we have to have in mind that interface and how it supports and how it improves safety and how it inserts itself in the ecosystem, whatever it is, manufacturing process, autonomous system, data labeling, Copilot, and so on. And even in generative AI, those will be the systems that, we are ready to adapt ourselves. I recommend to all of you to read David Mindell's book, Our Robots Ourselves, and also follow-ups, where, he analyzes this from the perspective of autonomous systems. And at that point, 2014, he was basically making a bold statement that, autonomous systems are failing at that point because we are not thinking about these interfaces. So that's my world, and that's where our headaches are. And also, let's remember, so one thing that we keep forgetting in the engineering of these systems is not only anomalies, but also observations and situations in the real world that actually are absent from the data that's available. For me, in most of the high-risk applications, you actually do not have data. So you have to engineer and set up a system to collect that data. So those are the winners. In the factory, for example, you have to create a mock-up factories and so on, or simulations that are relevant, so real to sim to real, and real to sim functions. And for those, actually, most of our existing systems, they assume that the data exists somewhere. Well, also about that data, we have to pay way more attention about the quality of that data. Mm-hmm. So for example, let's say you care about the localization problem, right? And you want to localize your vehicle. It's not gonna help if you get localization data from somewhere on the internet, and you have to be very precise. We have to be extremely precise and collect that data separately and have controls on that data. And that's going to be costly. And for that infrastructure, actually, machine learning methods are extremely useful. Active learning methods and transfer learning methods that enable that. So just for that infrastructure, that's another thing that I have a lot, when we all have a lot of work to do, and we're trying to put that infrastructure in our company. Many of those data sets will be proprietary because of customers. Right now, for example, even in that maintenance data, for example, pilots don't want to be identified and so on. So those are rules and there are laws that you have to obey in the analysis and in the decisions of the system. So if a decision of our system for maintenance, for example, uses the identity of a pilot and so on, that violates some rules. So these are attention to detail. I think one thing that, so those of you who are graduate students or undergrads, I think one thing that we're missing right now is the attention to detail about the whole process, training, validation, and so on. That's very important. If you have attention to detail and to all the steps, don't grab any data from the internet unless you're ready to accept any result. Don't just use any model because each of the models has its strengths and weaknesses and how it works and so on. Understand very well the entire process and the entire system. So that's where I am. And I think, until we solve these, I don't think we're even close to replacing anyone. We just, are there to support, our processes and to make our lives better.
Thanks, Dragos. That makes a lot of us happy. So coming to the next topic is about the gaps and challenges, like adapting AI into these enterprises. Like I want to hear from you each perspective. Like what do you guys think about adapting to its full potential of AI in your organizations or enterprises? Any gaps or challenges you see?
Yeah, still is understanding of where to put the money, where to put the budget, what can we build, and what will make sense. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and people are pretty familiar with these interfaces that help you build content and generate content and poems and videos of cats. But how am I going to use that to actually generate wealth for my company, to improve my operations, to provide the people of my city better energy, better food, more quality? And we're still on that stage in which we have to move really fast. The train already departed the station, but we're still trying to figure out how do I get a ticket to get on it, and where should I go? I think today, at least on our organization, is one of the biggest problems that we see. Big and small organizations trying to figure out exactly where are we going to use AI and how and what for. And that becomes a big part of the conversation. Of course, infrastructure and budgets, this is an expensive area, right? But everything starts with where and how we're going to use this. And I believe still we see a big gap there, trying to reconcile the need and the excitement with the reality of what can be built and how ROI, how can be beneficial for the organization.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, not to be repetitive, but I want to echo what Gerson just shared around this notion of governance, right? There is ownership now in place for AI in most organizations, whether it's a form of a chief data AI officer and an AI COE, but the governance model is still evolving, and so this notion of value management within the governance model is always a challenge. And I also want to echo what Dragos just said around data readiness, particularly on the structure side, the pipeline that we have seen being developed on the structure side from many organizations are not as mature on the structure side, and is a limitation. Now, I recognize that I'm talking to maybe a majority of startup company here, but I'm going to bring one more element that I think has a lot of relevancy to my clients and eventually your clients, which is regulation. We're dealing with a lot of regulated industry, and the regulation, particularly in the US, has been pretty gray, right, in terms of what we can do, what we cannot do with AI. It's a little bit more clearer maybe in Europe, but obviously we evaluate as a regulated accounting firm where the regulation is going and coming. We're working with the regulator, we're working with NIST and our organization. And many of our clients are telling us, we have clarity. Let's say you're a large bank, how far we can go with generative AI. And that's a bit of an impediment for the adoption. I don't see that changing very, very quickly. Right? I think the posture we'll see from the government. Obviously the administration might change. Who knows? But the posture we'll see from the government is such that I think we're going to stay in the gray area for a while. And so that's to me, particularly regulated industries such as financial services, healthcare, is a challenge.
Thanks, Peter.
Sure, to echo this, so probably most of you are familiar with technology readiness levels. Right, NASA said in the 90s, right, TRL-1, it would be an idea that you and I sit down and have. TRL-9 would be a full product. I think one thing that we tend to ignore or even be very superficial about is TRLs 5 and 6. So up to TRL-3 is research, then you start testing and evaluating in relevant environments. We tend to ignore that, and we tend to ignore even when we see, on LinkedIn or somewhere, we see a demo, oh yeah, this system will be able to do this, and we extrapolate in the wrong way. So for you startups, think about the holy grail of our adoption and our transition to products is that TRL 5.6, and it's not so easy. Sometimes you can be fooled as well on a system that I bring to you and you say, oh yeah, I think it's great. I think it's not about those numbers, what the TRLs are, but it's about those which take you from a simulated lab environment slowly to the real world, which is expensive, right? It's expensive to test and to deploy in the real world. As soon as we have that smoothed out in the different domains, in some domains it's very expensive, right? If you go to space, it's hard to have an environment which is relevant, right? But surrogates for that, so real simulations. So for example, in the simulation world, we all know that physics-based simulations are extremely rare for perception tasks. I'd love to see more startups in that world, and I know a few. Unfortunately, I know none in the Seattle area, so if you work in that area, talk to me after that. I'm very interested. So that's an example. But also other examples are anything that provides relevant environments for real-world production applications. I think once we smooth that out and we are patient, we have to be patient, very much like in building, a building like this one. It's not we build a foundation and then we throw some, furniture on top of it. It's all about having the patience of taking ideas through these thorough engineering process. And in that process, we will realize that it's not as simple as just training a model, whatever model it is, generative or not. It's about architecting system. Once you'll see, oh yeah, I have this predictor, and the predictions tend to be very uncertain in these areas, we'll build something around it. What is it called? Maybe a planner, maybe a decision system, and we don't let it do predictions in there and so on. And now you start to have a system. So once you go patiently through these steps, you'll be able to also have robust applications and so on. And given that many of you here are from the startup world, we'd like to automate that. A lot of that engineering in the TRL 5 and 6 is ad hoc, and we need experts, we need good researchers, we need good engineers who have experience. How about we have tools? And we started to have some tools in certain applications, and then other applications we don't. Look at that. There is a huge opportunity and a huge market there for all our companies to do it. And for the big companies, I think many leaders try to brush off that, oh yeah, I have this, let's put it in production. No, it's a costly process.
Yeah, the next question is about, this is one of my favorite, I know how we are doing on timing. Last question? Okay, thank you. So this is one of my favorite question. So we kind of touched some of these, but I just want to be more specific. So what advice do you guys give for founders, building AI startups in such a rapidly changing environment?
Oh, I have some here, and I think I'm going to pick it into some of the stuff that has been said here. So I said, and you guys know, and it's the perception also, but it's perception is sort of reality, that big players are pretty much taking over the conversation of AI because of infrastructure and the cost of compute, all that stuff, right? And that's true. That's what we're trying to do as part of our business, right? But we will not be able to cover all the cases that small, mid-sized, and even big companies are looking to fulfill with intelligence, either on the system space or on the physical space that was mentioned here, manufacturing and all that. We're seeing a tremendous amount of interest on hyper-automation in several areas. And we're seeing some startups being very successful. We have been interested in some of those, very successful at picking up corner cases in manufacturing, corner cases in areas like healthcare, that we are not necessarily interested on those. And I'm going to mention something interesting here because Columba has been talking about that. I wasn't supposed to talk about it. I'm involved in a group at Oracle that is very focused on two things. Agents, number one, which is this idea of a system or a machine that can perform an action, a task on behalf of a human, but with the human as supervisor or the human authorization. That's number one, and that's a huge space for startups. You might be able to pick something that humans don't want to do anymore and shouldn't be doing any longer and build the right piece of technology, the right agent for that. That's going to be, like he said, is going to be the big deal after all this dust about Copilot passes and guided experiences. A lot of people are going to be talking about these agents and building agents for those purposes. Now, it doesn't stop there. And this is the interesting thing that I want to put in your head for now and for the future. What comes after this type of agents? What comes after that, and there's some conversation happening here at University of Washington, I'm involved with those ones, and at Oracle, it's something that we call surrogates, which is a piece of technology, again, that take action on a human behalf and maybe with their authorization, but it does it in the way that the human does and likes. That is in a stage that is way beyond where we are today, but it required from you guys who will be building that, a great level of attention to the details of what is it that the human does, how do they do it, how is it that the corporation or whatever job they're doing requires from the human in order to make that to happen. So it's not going to stop only on this robot piece that you can build to do something on behalf of somebody else, but it has to do it the same way or better that the way that person does it, copying that behavior. So that there is room there. Room for agents today, there's a lot of room there, and room for what will be surrogates in the future.
Thanks, Chris. So is it okay to continue 2 more minutes?
Very brief, very brief.
Okay.
We got to get lunch, so.
Awesome.
All right, I'll be brief. I would say the advice I would give now is different what I would have given, pre-Gen AI. I would say think about your value differentiation in different ways. Pre-Gen AI, you had approximately a 5 years gap because you typically work on Horizon 2, Horizon 3 type of problems, and that those 5 years that you had, you no longer have. So that value differentiation is no longer based on your timeline or ideas, it's based on your focus. And when you think about your focus, think about this triangle, think about accuracy of the AI that you build, value and cost. There are certain industry, maybe like aerospace and defense, they would be willing to put the cost to make the AI way more accurate because they see the value. Healthcare is another one, and other that will not put that investment because they're just going to buy it from the Microsoft and the Google of the world. So that's not a space where you should go. So that's my feedback.
Yeah, so I'm a machine learning person, but I strongly advise you to think seriously about probabilistic reasoning. Typically, in any system, on top of a learned model, you usually have some sort of a probabilistic reasoner. You have a tracker on top of a detector, you have a system that supports your decisions on. So I think seriously, and actually all the applications that I see, they have good probabilistic reasoning people. So yeah, machine learning people now come out of schools and so on, get there and get fast because we can do with engineered systems tractable systems that do not need these kind of resources that just a single big model does. So if you're in that space, I would think about that. And that itself also will lead you to serious thinking about robustness guarantees. All these robustness guarantees, remember, to build an engineering field, as we said, we need robustness guarantees, right? Mechanical engineering has their own way of guaranteeing robustness. Electrical engineering, chemical engineering, we have to do that. And one thing to guarantee robustness is to manage the uncertainty. So think about that, and I think in the next few years we'll talk way more about probabilistic reasoning in our systems and doing it in a tractable way.
Definitely. So Pablo and Christopher, do you have time for questions for Flora?
We have to wrap it up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you
No
so
problem.
much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Gerson, Dragos, and Mando, for all your great insights and thoughts. It's a great time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.